Hey, are you ready to glow like the queen you are? Then it's time to book with Sunshine's Aesthetics by Michaela Graves, where smooth skin, flawless brows, and customized facials are just the beginning. From full body waxing to lash and brow laminations, Michaela's got the magic touch to keep you looking snatched and stress free. Self care isn't selfish, y'all, it's essential. Call her today or even text 336 529 1666. That's 336 529 1666 and let your skin thank you later.
Welcome to Back Porch Confessions, where the sweet tea is strong, the stories are stronger, and no topic is too taboo for the porch. Grab a seat, kick off your shoes, and let's get into the kind of conversations your mama warned you about, but you listen anyway. Hey, how are you guys? Barbara with Back Porch Confessions again. Try not to pay attention to the pale face today. I actually have no makeup on. Running into this with no makeup, I spent the afternoon with Michaela with Sunshine Spa Services in Greensboro, North Carolina. And she gave me an amazing facial today. And then I had to run home and do this and that. And anyway, I'm still trying to get this recorded, and I've got to get my life back into balance and back into routine so I can get these recordings out ahead of time, and I'm not busting my tail on a Tuesday evening not putting something out and you guys be disappointed, because that would hurt my heart. So today I'm basically gonna say some things about unhealed wounds that people have and emotional immaturity that people have, and how that relates to relationships and to you, and how you can and cannot deal with those types of things. So that being said, let's talk about why, when you're with somebody that has those types of things, on Monday you can be golden to them. You're irreplaceable, but by Friday they're wanting to dispose of you. Why is that a thing with them? The hot and cold that runs through the type of person that does this. They'll love you, but when they do this, it makes you question your worth. It makes you question whether or not the world around you is the truth. Their inconsistency isn't your identity, but it ends up being your identity if you can't see what's going on and what's happening in that situation. So many people are in those types of situations that they're emotionally being manipulated by this unhealed person. They generally have a lot of narcissistic type of behaviors and or are full-blown narcissist. But they that type of person is never going to admit to being that type of person. They're never going to be able to say, hey, I know I have these issues, and work on themselves. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is to ensure that you are in a safe space. You are getting the help that you need, and you have people that are on your side and aware of what's going on. It's not easy to get out of those types of situations and or relationships. So why are people kind one moment and cruel the next? It's because they have unhealed wounds. They have a traumatic past that they grew up with, and it's what they were taught, and that's all they know. That's all they know is to be hot and cold, because their parents were hot and cold to them. Their caregivers, whoever that was, they were raised in a situation where hot and cold was the thing. Emotional immaturity. People get stunted in their emotional ability, and they don't know how to regulate that. A lot of people walk this earth this day and time because we as parents don't know how to emotionally deal with our own stuff, let alone teach our child how to do that. It is our responsibility to teach them how to be able to do this. But many parents don't even know how to do it themselves, so they don't know how to teach their children to do this. So these children then grow up to be emotionally immature and not know how to deal with things in life like somebody at 50-something years old should be able to handle in an emotional level. They don't. It's foreign to them. They don't understand it. It's what's, some of my notes that I wrote down is it's kind of like an emotional whiplash. They treat you well when they are being regulated, and then when something sparks inside of them or stress hits them or something has got them out of sorts, they will not have the tools to manage that emotion. So that then spills out on their partner and or their children, their coworkers. These are the ones that walk around and people look at them and think, wow, you're probably just an a-hole. They probably are just an a-hole. But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily really bad people. There are a lot of people that are bad, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily bad. They just have an emotional immaturity that they don't know how to not be the hot and cold person, not be the partner in the relationship that causes the emotional whiplash, because one day you're over here and you're great, and the next day you're over here and you're not, and then they're questioning everything you do. It becomes really difficult. A lot of them want to have control and power. It somehow makes them feel good about themselves. The hot and cold type people, that behavior is a way for them to keep a balance. That's their regulation, is the hot and cold nature is their regulation. It keeps them balanced. Control and power helps keep them in balance. And that's, having their hands on every situation, and knowing everybody information about everybody. That's their control. That's their power. That's how they keep themselves. And when they lose that and they get stressed when they're losing control, you're going to know it. And you're going to know it in a really big way, because they are going to become very unkind. They're going to become very belligerent. They're going to become manipulative. They're going to rule your emotions. They're going to make you feel like you are the scum on the earth. The dirt on the bottom of a shoe is better than you are. And they will run you into the ground. And that's them trying to gain control and power back because they feel unregulated at the moment. If you're always wondering which version of them that you're going to get today, that's because you're easily controlled. And they look for people like that. They thrive on having relationships with people like that they can control, that they can keep on their toes, because it makes them feel like they're powerful. Like that power and that control gives them some sort of ego boost and inflation, and they feel like they're normal people at that point. And when that doesn't happen for them, you're going to know, because they get very ugly. They will get very ugly. It's a trauma cycle. A lot of these people have grown up with that. They were taught that by their parents or grandparents or whoever. So when you have a child that's raised with somebody that is a narcissist, manipulator, or emotionally immature, whatever name you want to give it, when they're raised in that type of situation and they never see anything different from anybody else, there's never another adult like you or I that teaches them, hey, that's not okay to live that way. That's not okay to be that kind of person to people. To be a kind, caring, nurturing, loving, giving person is what will make you a better person in life, not to have control and power over people, not to manipulate situations, feelings, and people, and to get the things that you want out of life. That comes from a cycle of mental and emotional abuse as a child. It's traumatic. You may not count that or consider that to be traumatic. A lot of people my age, Gen Xers, are going to look at me and go, "What, are you nuts?" I'm not nuts. This is absolutely true. It is a traumatic thing to us, but we don't realize it because we've not been taught any better. We don't know any better until we know better. Like, I know better now. I stayed in a relationship too long for that, and I should have left way before I did, but I didn't want to go through another divorce, and I didn't want my children to lose their dad. I'd already had the issue with children in my first marriage and the whole dad thing, and I didn't want that again. I didn't want that whole situation again, so I stayed longer than I should have. I let him control and manipulate me over and over again, and he still is kind of that kind of person. He's changed a lot in many ways, but he's still kind of that person, and you know, I don't like dealing with that in anybody. But it happens a lot. There's so many people out there that have no idea that this is how they are. They have no idea that they are spewing their wounds onto other people by their actions of being manipulative, being controlling, being giving you the whiplash of one day you're amazing and the next day you're a POS, and they would rather you just go away. But then the minute they need something or want a part of you, you're going to reel you back in, and then when something goes wrong again, they're going to belittle you and put you down. And so it's this mad cycle that you go through, leaving you, the person that's going through it with them, to feel like you're crazy. Like, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what's right, what's wrong. You don't know if you're coming or going. Your world is filled with doubt. You doubt yourself. You doubt your sanity. You're not sure if you're even fit to be a human being. You greatly question yourself when you get in a situation with somebody like that, even if it's somebody you work with. Like, I literally have worked with somebody like this, and that's just tough. It is so tough to have a working relationship with somebody like that, because you really can't. It's very one-sided, and you have to learn to be able to control and regulate and have your walls that you can put up, your boundaries that you can place, and know when to walk and when not to walk. But, when you walk from those people, they don't like it. They don't want you to leave. They don't want you. I'm one to get in my car and go for a ride when I need to cool down, and there's some people don't want you doing that. When a child grows up with that type of behavior, they then grow up and repeat it in their relationships. And they don't even realize it. Like, most people, like I said, they don't realize it. You don't realize you're doing this. You're repeating that behavior, which is why I talk about the generational trauma and how to break it. All of these things all tie in. Everything I talk about with these things all tie back into that generational trauma and how we can break it. Because people aren't just naturally born a-holes. It's something that has happened to them as a child that has created this issue in them. Whether it was their parent was like this because of what they went through, or something traumatic happened to them, it comes from the wounds from the childhood. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, when you get beyond the whole narcissistic behavior and that kind of thing, and you get into the psychological borderline, schizophrenic, those types of things, that's a whole different level of thing that I'm not talking about, not going into. I don't have that kind of ability to go into those things, not at this point. But that type of thing is goes beyond the spectrum of normal human everyday life. That is somebody that needs more help and generally has a chemical imbalance or we've yet to figure out why people become that type of person. I'm not sure what words I can use on here that I won't get myself removed from the platform. So, Jeffrey Dahmer, Michael Myers, those type of people. That's a whole different level of, yes, they go through these things. They have the parents that are narcissistic and or have done something to them to manipulate them in some way. But they also have some type of chemical imbalance. Like there's just something else deeper than what I'm going to actually go into here. When that type of person is feeling threatened, when they're feeling like they don't have control, when they are feeling like they being kind makes them vulnerable, them having empathy to people and situations makes them vulnerable. They don't like that. They don't like to, and I know I pause because I'm trying to say the right words and I don't want to get myself removed from the platform. I've worked too hard for this. So they get very careful because they don't like to be vulnerable. That is not a situation that they are comfortable with. They don't want to, even though many women in relationships would absolutely love for their partner to be vulnerable enough to understand everything. You're not going to. Men and women are just different, but you're going to be able to understand a lot if you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to be open to it. These type of people are not going to do that. They will get angry when they feel like they're put in a position where they have to be open and vulnerable, and they're made to be kind. That's where that whiplash comes in. They will be kind for a minute, and then the ugly is going to come on, and it's going to come on fast. And your head's going to spin because you're just going to be sitting there going, what did I do? Like, we were just fine. What happened? Why are we now all of a sudden going through a situation where you're basically telling me I am a problem, or they're cussing you out, or they're telling you you're stupid, or they are just being mean. Like their words sting. They use words to sting because they feel powerful and they feel in control when they can react to you that way. Why does it make us question ourselves? Let me pull up some other notes. I really would love if you guys would tell me some things you want me to talk about. I've got plenty of things I want to talk about, but I would also like to talk about some things that you guys want to talk about. So just send me an email. Unless you know me, then you could just send me a message, but backporchconfessions@gmail.com. So when they come at you like that, and they're flipping the switch on you routinely, and you're left not knowing whether you're coming or going, it makes you lose your sense of security. You don't feel safe. You're probably not sleeping well. You're probably anxious all the time. You question whether or not you can even boil a pot of water correctly. You're just waiting on him or her to condemn you at the very next moment because you feel like you deserve it. You feel like you're just worthless and you're no good to the world or to the society. And man, I think I also hold my breath a lot on these things because I know how this feels. I have felt it to my core, and it's not a good place to be. It took me years to figure out who I was again, and that I was okay, and that I am worth something, and that I have something to offer this world, and I'm not just some wife that's to stay at home and do nothing and be quiet and don't talk about anything, and everything is hush hush as long as they're getting their way and everything is going well. Everything is going to be well for you as well. Ish. It's never really well. You have your good moments, and that's the part that makes it hard, is you have your good moments. There are moments that you have with this person that you're like, oh, I could love them forever. This is so great. And then as soon as they start to feel you're comfortable or you're happy, they don't even realize they do it is the crazy thing, but they will flip a switch on you. And then you're just left holding the bag going, what just happened? We were just having a good time. Like, literally, what just happened? Why are we in this situation where you're angry with me now? What did I do? What happened? What caused this thing to go sideways all of a sudden? It's because the kindness, the goodness, they're not used to that. To them, that's vulnerability. They don't want that. That makes them very uncomfortable. And they don't like uncomfortable. They do not want to feel uncomfortable. So they will do everything that they can to remain in control of every situation that they're in. Even if it means making you feel like you are absolutely bat crazy. Like, they will manipulate you until you feel you are absolutely crazy. You question every single thing you do, every step you take. Whether or not I should have stepped off on the right foot or the left foot is going to be a question for you, because was that right or wrong? Am I going to get fussed at for that? Did I do that improperly? Did I not sweep the floor good enough? Was I not home fast enough? Was I not answering a call fast enough? Oh, I forgot to return a message. Like, there's so many things that you end up standing on your tippy toes all the time, walking on eggshells, because you never know when the next shoe is going to fall, because you never know when they're going to lose their crap again. Mixed signals and the self-blame game. Yeah, I did it for years. I gave him excuses over excuses as to why these things happened and why I needed to stay, and why, it was really my fault for this or for that, when no, it wasn't. It wasn't. So those moments when they make you feel like they do care, then they come around and they are cruel. You wonder what's wrong with you. And this is not just in my marriage. This goes back into my childhood. There are wounds that are there from my childhood. I don't know that my mom was necessarily completely like this type of person, but a lot of it was there, and I did feel like there was something wrong with me. I didn't realize that I thought there was something wrong with me until I went through therapy, and I've said that a few times on here. But it literally hurts my heart when I think about the little girl that just wanted to be loved and wanted to be accepted and wanted to feel like she belonged somewhere, and wanted her mom to love her for who she was. And that, she does now. But when that little girl needed that safety and security, it wasn't there. That safety and security was absolutely not there. And that has carried through to my life, to the point where when I make the comparison of when somebody grows up and they're in a situation where they're treated with whiplash, emotional abuse, they then carry that on to their children, because they don't realize there's anything wrong with it, because that's all they know. So they think that's okay. Well, people like me who grew up in a situation where it was mainly that type of thing, where the connection wasn't there, she would love me, then she wouldn't. She would love me, then she wouldn't, until she took me to foster care at 14 and dropped me off, because she didn't want to be a parent anymore. I then spent many years of my life picking people that were just like her, because I thought I didn't deserve any better. I felt like I didn't deserve any better. I felt like I deserved to be loved that way. I also thought that was love, because I didn't know any better. I had no idea that being treated that way was not okay. I mean, I felt it. Like, I felt there was things wrong. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. But not near as often as I felt like I need to do this right or do that right to get my mom to love me, or to get him to love me. If I just do this better, they'll love me. If I can just have this conversation better with them, or if I can just cook this meal right, or if I can go pay this power bill for her, even though I was in freaking high school and there was no way, I didn't have a driver's license, I couldn't get over to the power bill place to pay the bill, but whatever. That became a whole thing one time, but I just wanted to be better. I just wanted her to see me in a better light. I just wanted my mom to love me for me, and not compare me to my dad, and not have a love-hate for me. I know she loved me in the way that she could love me, and I get that now because I've been through the things, but it doesn't make this not hurt. It hurts. It's gonna hurt. I'm gonna hurt. It hurts. And anybody that has grown up in these situations, which a lot of us Gen X people have, it hurts. So we then grow up and we pick those same type of people, because that's where our self-worth is. And it took me 8 years of being single. I mean, I dated one guy for about 6 months, and another guy that was a complete and whole utter disaster that was in and out of my life, become a stalker, and anyway, that was a whole hot mess. And he was primo narcissist. But again, I'm still trying to figure out what that is, and why is that something that I keep choosing? Like, what even is this? So it took years of therapy, years of research and reading books and self-care and self-help to figure out the little girl in me that needed to be healed. And I'm still working on her, obviously, because I still get to tears sometimes, but because it hurts. It just freaking hurts. So we internalize those behaviors. Our human brains crave consistency. So we're wired to trust patterns. And so, like I'm saying, I trusted the pattern of that type of person. So that's why I kept choosing that type of person. When the pattern is unpredictable, our brain works overtime trying to fix it so we can feel safe again. I have been a fixer my entire life. And I went to a therapy session sometime in June, I think it was. Just really struggling with my personal relationship. And I realized during that therapy session where she made me realize it anyway, that I was trying to parent my husband instead of loving my husband. And that I had to decide not to parent him anymore. That he's old enough to know how to love me and what I need to be loved. And if he can't get to those conclusions on his own and what he needs to do to fulfill my love bucket, because he can do things, but I'm ultimately responsible for my own happiness. Nobody can make us happy. We have to find that ourselves. We have to find it in ourselves. But I have to tell you, the weight that lifted off my shoulders when I got home and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to sit and have these conversations with you anymore. I'm not going to beg you to love me a certain way. I'm not going to write you books on what Barbara needs to be loved. I'm not doing none of these things anymore. You're either going to love me or you're not. And we'll have our answer. So that was a weight that was released because I no longer was trying to fix the situation. And I will say in doing that, I mean, we still have our, back and forth, but I would say in doing that, we have connected a lot better than we had been. And I'm not as critical and cruel, just angry, because I want so badly to just be loved and accepted. I've spent my entire life trying to do that. So anyway, conditional love, it kind of feels like a mirror. With conditional love, which is what we get a lot, I'm going to love you as long as you're doing what I want you to do. It shows up when someone else is happy. We start believing our worth is conditional too. So in the times when I was a child, when my mom was happy and the love was great, I felt great. I felt like, everything was going to be okay. But then that would shift. And I get that a lot now. And I have in my relationships growing through life. I tend to pick the people that are going to give me the conditional love and not unconditional love. And that's a me problem. Because I don't know how to break myself away from that pattern that I grew up with, it's the only way I know. So I'm having to unlearn a lot of things and learning not to parent. My husband is one of those. So with the highs and lows of all of those times when it's good, then it's bad, and it's good, then it's bad, and it's good, and then it's bad. That roller coaster is almost like a drug. Like we get addicted to how the highs feel, and we just want that high back. And so when it's there, it's like a dopamine, and we get this rush of love, and this is it, this is great, and then it's going to crash. Trauma bonding. That's what trauma bonding is. It keeps us hooked into the relationship, even if the relationship ultimately is hurting us. So with that hook, I refer to this all the time, that you just reel me back in. You do these things, these little bitty itty things that make me feel like you love me, to keep me reeled in. But if I was to sit back and look at the whole picture, you don't really love me. So sometimes when people that are in these types of relationships have that reality hit them, it generally hits them with a ton of bricks, and they are left sitting kind of like shocked, unprepared for what to do next, because life doesn't tell us what to do next when we realize that we're in a relationship that is basically a trauma bond, and we are not doing things that are actually healthy for us. Neither are they. They're not doing things that are actually healthy for us. Where is the next step? Like, where do you go from there when you have that realization, when that happens? The biggest thing you can realize during that time frame when those things are happening is that their inconsistency doesn't equal your worth. You are worth something. You're worth way more than you will ever give yourself credit for. But it's so hard for us, especially, at 50 something years old. I'm still trying to figure this out. And that's why I really am. I'm having these conversations with you guys because I want to be able to help somebody not be where I'm at. I don't want my children to be where I'm at. So I hope that they're watching these things, and I hope that they hear my words and they know, don't allow themselves to be in these situations. Don't allow the inconsistent love in their life. And go into a relationship where you have to parent the person, because that's not going to end up in a very good, it's not going to end well. That relationship is not going to end well if you have to parent that person. First off, we're adults. We're not supposed to be parenting one another in the first place. They are grown-ups. They should be able to figure out how to do life. If they are incapable of doing life, they either need to get help and or work on things with you. If they can't do those types of things, then you have to make a decision whether or not you want to stay in a relationship with somebody that's going to be in this emotional roller coaster with you every day. Or do you do better for yourself and get away from that? It's a very difficult thing to do. It's scary. It's fear. Fear takes over you. How am I going to do this? How am I going to stand on my own 2 feet? How am I going to be able to take care of myself? Nobody else is going to want me. Nobody's going to want to love me. If I don't stay in this relationship, it's going to look terrible on me. I'm gonna be a bad person, and people are going to think I'm just a complete loser, and I've gone through a whole nother divorce, and all these thoughts and things, and in the way that we talk to ourselves and talk down to ourselves, it's not healthy. But it's where we go. It's where most people go, and it's why most people end up staying in these situations. It's why most people end up sick that are on the receiving end of this stuff, and their body wreaks havoc on them, between the generational trauma and then the people that we ultimately end up picking because we don't know any better. We don't know how to pick somebody that's not going to be the same way our parents were. It's such a cycle. It is such a cycle. I'm trying to get this thing to pull up something else. I've got it in Word, so I've got to pull it up out of Word. So I got to plug it in and pull it up. So anyway, with us being able to be adults now and seek help, and there's so many ways for us to be able to seek help, and so many ways for us to be able to get the word out, like this. I do TikTok lives so I can have conversations with people so that they have a safe space. They know that they can come and talk and get things off their chest. And the people in the hometown aren't going to be in those little lives unless somebody drops in that they don't know. But, that doesn't generally happen. I do the lives because I want so much to be able to make people feel at peace with themselves in whatever they got going on, and that they have somewhere to go if they need to. Sorry, I had to get a drink. you know, as kids, we're wired to, that love came with conditions. You listen. You praised when you were good. But you were shamed if you weren't good. So as kids, we were raised with those conditions. So if you're in a relationship as an adult, you think if you're bad, then you're not good. Like you're not supposed to be loved if you've done something wrong according to the person that you're with. But that's not always necessarily the case. It's really not generally necessarily the case. You don't generally have a relationship that you're in, or you shouldn't be in a relationship that is praising you and shaming you at the same time. And as parents, we shouldn't do that. And how we speak to our kids and teaching them how to understand that you did this wrong and this is why you're in trouble. Having that conversation with them, giving that moment of, you don't have to talk to them in complete adult language until they get older, but as kids, to have that conversation with them in a calm manner is going to teach them to be more regulated in life than to just be angry, spank them, whatever it is that you do, and then you shouldn't have done that. Well, you didn't explain why they shouldn't have done it. You didn't explain why it's a bad thing. You didn't explain to them that you're having this conversation with them because you love them and you want them to understand what happened, and you make them repeat back to you what was wrong with what they did. And then you give them love and you move on with life. Do they sometimes need their butt whooped? Absolutely. I absolutely think sometimes they need their butt whooped. Do I think you should beat a child? No, absolutely not. I don't agree with that. But to keep our children from becoming these grown people that I've encountered most of my life, you have to treat them with respect, and you have to also treat them with a hard hand, but a soft heart. And what I mean by that is being able to step back and have a conversation with them so that they understand love isn't conditional. It's not, I'm good and mom loves me, but if I do something wrong, mom doesn't love me, she doesn't like me, she's going to scream and yell at me. You're teaching them to be these unregulated, wounded adults that show up with trauma. Because kids don't understand it. They don't understand that. So we end up with the attitude of, and like I've said already, we do it in grown-up adults. I do it right now. I still do it. Maybe if I just do this better. Maybe if I just talk better. Maybe if I just behave better, they'll love me. Maybe if I make the bed and cook the food and make sure the house is spick and span and do all these things, maybe he'll love me. And he'll come home today with something that I really like a slice of tiramisu, or I planned a trip for us, or whatever. We shouldn't be expecting that, though. We're looking for reward because that's where we find love. We think we're loved if we look for the reward, then we're loved. If they don't reward us, then we're not loved and we're bad people and we're shamed. As children, we can't just walk away from situations like that. So the only way that we learn to deal with that is we become adept to accepting that we are bad people. So we blame ourselves. Like I blamed myself for a very long time for my mom not loving me. Like if I didn't look like my dad, if I didn't act like my dad, if I'd have just been even better. But I really wasn't a bad kid. Like I never really did anything too outlandish. I just didn't. I did a few things as a teenager when I got into foster care. My aunt and uncle were raising me. I did some typical teenage things, but for the most part, I was a really good kid, and I didn't do a lot of the things that I could have done. But, as children, we end up self-blaming because that feels safer than admitting to people around us who should protect us that they're causing us harm. Because if we try to say that, they're not going to take it. Like if I'd have went to my mom and told her she was hurting me, she probably would have laughed in my face or would have just walked away or had something crazy to say. Who knows? I have no idea. But it wasn't safe to do that. There was no safety in doing that. I did not feel safe as a child to be able to go and say that. So I just took the blame on myself because that was safer than going to her with it. I don't want my children to feel that way. I've never wanted my children to feel that way. I always wanted. I made the mistake with my third child when she was going through some identity issues, and I didn't like the one that she was choosing, and it created a lot of trouble, and we ended up in therapy, and I didn't have the reaction she thought I would have because her and I have always been very close. And I had to decide after going to therapy, is it more important that my child be a certain person according to societal choices or ideology, or is it more important to love my child for who she was in the moment that she's in it? If this was my mom and she was me, it would have been an absolute no. This is not going to happen, and there's no room for any negotiations on this whatsoever. I chose to love my child in the moment that she was in and to allow her to be that person that she wanted to be. And I gave her the repercussions of the choice. And she was making that choice. And I made it clear that it was her choice to make, but that I loved her and I was going to continue to love her. And it was more important for me to love her than it was for me to have her be somebody she didn't feel like she was at the time. So, without going into a whole lot of that, she's turned out to be completely amazing, and all that hoopla was all for naught, but other than to hurt her in many ways, which was not my intent. So ultimately making the decision to love my child in the moment that she was in was more important. Guilt and shame. There's a lot of that when we're growing up, and which is why a lot of us end up either being the mean, cruel people, or we end up being the people who are vulnerable that want to love the people that are mean and cruel because we think that's what we deserve. It comes from our root. It's a pattern of plants in our life that have deep roots that say we're not enough. And even as adults, when someone flips the hot and cold on us, it is reactive to the childhood survival response that we have. We end up wanting to feel like, if I'm just better. We just go through that cycle over and over and over again in every relationship we end up in until we learn to heal ourselves and not to be that person to take complete responsibility for these grown people and their decisions and the way that they treat you and the way that they make you feel. Until you realize that you are worth it, till you realize that you are enough, until you realize that you are not put on this earth to bow down to people, and that you deserve to have better things in life and to be loved, you're going to continue down that path. It's just a cycle. It's a continued cycle, and it will be, and it will go from you to your children if you don't heal from this. If you do not stop this behavior now, it will carry on to your child. it's why inconsistency in relationships as adults feels so familiar. That's why we grab onto it like it's gold and we don't want to let it go. It's not new. It's the old wounds that show up that's reopening. And those wounds are where we feel safe for whatever crazy reason. It's because that's all we've known. That's all we have known, was to be in those wounds, in those cycles, and we don't know how to break out of it unless we take the time to heal, unless we take the time to do the research, unless we take the time to find the strength in ourselves and the walls, I'm at a loss for the word, but when we are setting boundaries, when those boundaries are set, when we are able to set boundaries and not accept certain things in our life, the other people in our life will either respect that or they won't. They'll move on. And you can't hold yourself accountable for them choosing to walk. You have to hold yourself accountable for knowing what you deserve and what you are worth. The healing side of it all, once you get there, once you realize that you need to heal, recognizing it's not your fault is the first step. As adults, we can rewrite. We can go through therapy. We can look for safe relationships. We can have faith. Faith doesn't necessarily mean you have to be attached to some type of religion. Faith is just having a spiritual relationship with God. Allah, whatever that looks like for you. Having that spiritual connection. And naming the truth out loud. I am speaking truths out loud for a reason. I'm healing and I want other people to heal. Breaking that cycle means telling your inner child, you weren't the problem then. And you aren't the problem now. Let them. Let them be the problem. And I always forget to plug up my laptop. And this thing is being quirky, of course. Come on. Good gravy, y'all. I do apologize. Technical difficulties when you work this whole thing by yourself. Even though you ask your child to help you. He won't. He's a brat. I love him, but he's a brat. So think back. Did you grow up in a home where you never knew which version of your parent you were going to get? Or did you grow up in a home that had consistency? How has that shown up for you now? Are you in a nice, normal, healthy relationship? Or are you in relationship after relationship that goes through roller coaster after roller coaster and you keep picking the wrong people? If you grew up in a house that was inconsistent and you were never shown how to be consistent, or that you didn't have to accept that type of love from anybody, some people are just lucky and they figure this out before they're almost 53 years old like me. I don't know. I don't want to say that they're lucky. That seems kind of cold. I'm not trying to come across cold, but they are fortunate that they were able to move forward despite the things that went on. They were able to move forward and not feel they're not worth being loved properly. Because that feeling is the worst feeling in the world, especially as you get old enough to realize that's what you're doing. Because when you're younger, your 20s and 30s, you don't realize that that's what you're doing, that you're just searching for a love because your inner child just wants to be loved. They just want to be accepted. They just want to know that there's not something wrong with them. And you spend your entire life in relationships that tear you down because that's how you grew up, being tore down. And you feel like that's what you deserve. You don't. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve to be brought to your knees on a routine basis to make you feel like you should kiss their feet and wash them when you're done. Like, no. No. And I want you to have a voice. I want you to know that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to say, this place that I'm at now is not okay. I'm not safe here. And it's okay to take yourself from that and heal yourself. But you have to take the time to heal yourself. I thought I was healed, but I wasn't quite healed. I'm a lot more healed than I was. And I'm smart enough, I have enough intelligence in all of these things to know when I need help. Like, I know that I need to have a conversation with Deb. Hey, I'm not okay right now. I can't figure this out on my own. I got this going on. And I can make an appointment with her and I will go see her. And she helps me to see the things that I can't see. Like that I was parenting my husband and I needed to stop parenting him. And he either was going to love me as I needed it, or he's not. So you have to get to that point. You have to get to that point where you can know these things and you can admit these things without feeling like you're a bad person, without feeling like you're doing something against the person that is with you. Because more often than not, the opposite person, the person that's the narcissist, the abuser, the mental, emotional abuser, those people, they're not going to want you to go to therapy. They don't want you to heal. They don't want you to get better. They don't want you to know that you can set boundaries. They don't want you to feel like you have any power. They want you to stay right where you're at, because then they have control and power over you. They can make you bend and bow. They can make you feel however they want to, whenever they want to, and you are to be okay with that. They don't want you to move forward and to heal. You have to want you to do that. You have to step up and say, I am doing this for me. You don't have to like it. That's a boundary. You don't have to come to counseling with me. That's a boundary. Because the healing you're doing, the healing that I'm doing for me. Not for you. You can come along for the ride if you want to heal, but we need to heal separately before we can ever heal together. And if you're in a relationship that doesn't seem possible, then heal you. Heal you, and they'll come along, or they won't. And you'll have your answer. But heal you. That is what's important, is that you heal you. Please come see me on Back Porch Confessions on TikTok. That is my page for there. My personal page is just my name. I do lives. I try to do them on Monday and Wednesday and Friday around 4:30. has been the time that I seem to be able to do to get a decent amount of people in. If you want to come to the live, I would love to have you there. Come check me out on TikTok. We will have pop-up lives every once in a while. If you are in the North Carolina area and you want to get a facial, I ask that you reach out to my daughter. I will have her information in the commercial on here. So please go reach out to Michaela for Sunshine Spa services. She gave me a 90-minute Korean facial today, and I don't know. I almost fell asleep one time. My body jolted and jumped. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. I booked another appointment, and I absolutely look forward to going back again. She did an amazing job. I'm so proud of her and this journey that she's been on to get to her salon and get where she's at. So I hope that everybody that's here will go and support her, because it would mean the world to me, but I know it would definitely mean the world to her if she could build a clientele that she could focus solely on that and not have to work 2 and 3 jobs to pay for her salon suite to be able to do this job. So go support my girl. I appreciate it. I will be back. I am going to do a bonus episode this week on postmenopause, basically. I'll skip over some of the things with perimenopause and menopause, but I'm going to talk more on postmenopause and or why women who used to not be able to take birth control because it gave them too much hormones and made them mean, why they absolutely need to take hormone replacement therapy now. So anyway, that's coming up. I'm going to have a bonus episode on that this Friday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I don't have anything on here. The 20th. August the 20th. My youngest son is actually moving into a dorm tomorrow. He's going to Carolina University. It's a private Christian school, so I'm very proud of him. Going to play baseball there. Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you being here, as always. If you want anything to be talked about, email me, as I said earlier, backporchconfessions@gmail.com. I would absolutely love to hear from you guys. If you just have a comment, just want to say something about it, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcast. Still working on the YouTube thing. Forgive me. I've got too many irons in the fire, but I will get there. I thank you guys. I appreciate it, and have yourself a wonderful day.
That's a wrap on this episode of Back Porch Confessions, where the tea is hot, the stories are real, and we never apologize for keeping it honest. Produced and edited by the Magic Makers over at Zay Media. Until next time, keep your porch talk spicy and your secrets safe. Mostly.